It's about time I started recording again. You can see there have been quite a few changes. One of them is I had to move my YouTube account. I recently moved my email from Gmail to Google Apps, and when I did that, I actually needed to get a new YouTube account because you can't just transfer it from one email to another. It's really annoying, but that's what I did. So I'll figure out how I can move the rest of the videos to the new account. But I guess we can say we're starting fresh. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time with editing my videos and making sure that the quality of the video and the sound is good as well. I'm still just recording with the Logitech HD web camera, so I know it's not the best, but at least I'm trying really hard with the audio. As you can see, I'm using the Rode Podcaster right now. I will invest in a really good microphone that can just pin on my clothes instead. I know Rode microphone, which is a Swedish company, I believe. And I think they have their main office in Australia, oddly enough. They are being so kind and helping me a little bit with equipment. And I have to say, it's really good stuff they have. I use this microphone for my courses for Pluralsight, and both me and John use this microphone when we're recording our podcasts every Friday, the Get Up and Code podcast. Have a listen there. I've had quite an interesting week. Personally, it's been a really rough week. I can't share any of those details because it involves people in my life that like to be a little bit more private. I don't have any sense of privacy, so that doesn't go for me, but I have to respect other people's opinion and feelings. So I can't share that. But work-wise, it's been really awesome actually. I'm still working on an application for the company. I recently started working with Every. So I've been working there for about a month, and I'm working on an application that they will be using with their clients, which is a really cool application. I'll give you more details about it later on. I'm just really happy with it. I'm doing it test-driven, and the code is looking fantastic. For once in my life, I'm actually happy with the code I write. Woo! I thought I would never get there. I criticize myself a lot. So I also had a session for Codesse. Now, Codesse is a conference that Skype arranges, and is it Prague? Oh, I'm trying to remember where the other place where they have it. But this was the first time they had it in Sweden, as far as I know. It was in Stockholm, it was on Wednesday, and it was awesome. I had such a good time, and I can't wait to go back. I got to stay at a beautiful hotel, and I worked my ass off to put together a really cool session. So the session I recorded myself, like here with the green screen, and I had myself talking with myself throughout the session, my alter ego, to explain a little bit about cognitive biases and how we can fight those with agile learning and good learning technique and so on. I had a really good time. We had some audio problems, so in the beginning there was this really awkward moment where the audio went up and down and we had to start over again playing my videos, and it just got really weird. But I kind of expect technical difficulties at the tech conference anyway, so it's not that strange. That's right, turn out right. Ken, you did a fantastic job, so don't worry about it. It was cool. Highly recommend that session. It was 120 ladies there. Wow. And guys as well, so it wasn't exclusive, but the goal was to get a lot of girls to come. And I did a session. After me was Felicity, she works for Skype, and there was Eva Fors, she works for Microsoft. Now Eva said something really cool that I'd like to share with you. She said, make sure that you know at your work how you are being measured, how your performance is being measured. Because you're usually measuring some sort of result, not activities. Nobody is paying you just to do stuff. That stuff has a name and it should be measured somehow. I thought that was quite interesting. To be honest, I believe that I might have had some problems with previous employees because I didn't know how I was being measured and I was feeling insecure. I wasn't know if I was doing the right thing, the right way, and it was time to have that review talk. You would find out that the goals you had set that you thought was the company goals were your own personal goals and not at all what your boss expected of you, which is of course is not fun because everybody wants to do their very, very best. So I ran to my boss on, was it Friday, and I was like, I want to know how I'm being measured. And we had a talk, and first I don't believe too many people have asked that before. So it was like, well, we measure on quite a few things, and some of the things can't be measured in numbers. And I said, well, I'd actually like to have something that is measurable, be that numbers or in another way, so I know what I'm striving to, because it has happened before that I kind of misunderstand what is important, and I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because I want to put all my energy into what we want to achieve, the right goals. So in 2 weeks, we're gonna have that talk, and I'll make sure I share with you how I'm being measured at work. And I encourage you to do the same thing. It's a good conversation, it's not a negative one. I'm really looking forward to that. Makes it more fun as well. Because I want to impress, but if I'm gonna impress and over-deliver, well, then I need to know what I need to deliver from, besides just coding, or, they can get anybody to code. But what else? How do we measure? I'm looking forward to that. After I've done my session, Felicity did her session, and beautiful Eva did her session, we had a Q&A, the traditional Q&A. You sit down, let people ask questions, run around with the microphone, and you get to reply to questions. I love that part. I love questions. Particularly if they're hard and it's hard to answer. I like that. Yeah, keep them coming. One of the questions we got, and I talked with a young lady that asked this question afterwards a little bit more, was when you want to learn something new, how do you know where to focus your attention? Because there is so much. Have you had a look at the internet lately? It's full of information. There was so many resources. There's a tutorial and a guide on absolutely everything. So how do you know what to pick? Very good question. And afterwards I was gonna give her advice. I was like, I'll take you under my arms. I am not an expert, so I can only say what's working for me and what I do. But when you get questions like that, you get super eager and you just want to share everything absolutely. And I was like, well, Head First has awesome books. I love their stuff. They got some awesome stuff on HTML. So she wanted to learn HTML5. She doesn't know any programming whatsoever. So that's what she's starting with. She's working for a company where they do a lot of front-end web development. And she wants to learn about HTML5, hopefully kind of stepping over that role to there. She's worked, I think, in HR and communications before. So I said, well, you have Head First, they have awesome books. A-Press has got some really neat books as well. Then you have, you got Virtual Academy. Microsoft has some cool stuff. Then Pluralsight, of course, Pluralsight. I am biased. You know that, right? Okay, so I'll recommend Pluralsight to absolutely everybody. Not just because I got royalties there, but I haven't done the HTML5 courses, so I don't win anything, but there are some of my friends done those courses, and they've done such a fantastic job, and I love the courses myself, so of course I'm going to recommend those. Then you also have some of the competitors of Pluralsight, such as Linda. I believe they probably have something similar. Pluralsight is better though, but yeah, there are options. And then you have more books, and then I bet there are quite a few websites completely dedicated to HTML5. And then you also have tutorials, and I started listing up. I just felt how the list was like getting longer and longer and longer, and I was like, I am not really helping, am I? I could just see the panic in her eyes, Her eyes like getting bigger and bigger, and I was like, I am not helping. So I said, let me think about it, because I don't want to come with just a general answer where you go like, so you need to find out what really works for you. Okay, nobody believes you're smart when you say that, because that is the easy way out. It's so easy to say because it's true. Yes, of course, you need to figure out what works for you, but you could still try to give an answer, couldn't you? You could come with a suggestion. They're smart enough. People are smart enough to figure out what works for them. So I wanted to be able to actually provide a real answer. And I have the answer now. So this is how I would go about it. Now we're talking about a person learning programming, starting with HTML5, and there's this overwhelming amount of information, and you go like, bam, your head explodes. Time to get started. How do you do? The first thing I would do is I would write down HTML5 on a piece of paper in the middle of the paper. Very important, in the middle of the paper. And then I would start writing down the technologies surrounding that area that I probably need to know a little bit about to be able to learn that really well. Because there are very few technologies that you can learn just separately without knowing anything else, and that'll be just the one thing you know. It doesn't really work like that. So I will write JavaScript, jQuery, and then also please note the difference, and cascading style sheets. And you don't need to learn about less and sus right now. Just know the words exist. But so those are the three things. Or just group jQuery and JavaScript together. So you need to know scripting language, and you need to know the markup language, and you need to know the styling, because those three things kind of belong together. Not kind of, they do belong together. So that's the first thing. Now you'll be able to identify what you need to learn. Now it's time to get that first right, because that's overwhelming. So you need to kind of alternate between overwhelming and oh my god, I can make things work. So to get that oh my god, I can make things work is just find an application that's already working, and you just need to push play and you can see the result. And then you can have a look at it and see how the three things work together, and you can kind of get an understanding, and you can start just moving things around a little bit and see how that affects. So once you have something that is working, you have something you can start exploring. Those templates are usually so easy to get started with, and they have just a few implementations, and you can start looking at those and see how those work. The next step is, because now you've done the, oh, it works, now you need more of that overwhelming feeling. So what you do is find some sort of organized way of learning the topic. And by that I mean find either an online course, such as the Pluralsight courses, or a book, Learning HTML5, Head First. I don't remember the title of the book, but something like that. Find a book or a course or a guide or something like that, but just make sure it's something that has a start and a finish, and the person who put together the course or the people that they had a thought about, these are the things you need to know to learn this technology, to, you know, be a beginner, but at least you know kind of everything you need to know to be working with that technology. Because if you just randomly look for information here and there using a search engine, well, you don't know what you're missing out on. So you kind of need somebody to tell you the roadmap, how you're going to learn things. And that could also be a person, but I would still make sure that I use some sort of technical content that has had some sort of review process that other people have confirmed. Yes, you are covering most of the things that the person needs to know in this course or book. Therefore, I would recommend online training, such as the ones I mentioned earlier in this video, or a book, or similar. That's very important. I mean, even blog posts can be really good if there's a guide, because people will comment on it and author will receive feedback and so on. If you just ask one of your colleagues, they might be a little bit stressed and they might forget to mention something and so on. So it's going to be a little bit sporadic information. It's going to be hard for you to really understand it really well. But when you are stuck, don't let yourself be stuck for too long before you ask for help. Don't be that developer that just runs for help the minute you have a question. Make sure that you try to discover the answer yourself first, because it's such an important journey and you need to do it yourself. But enough about that. I mean, those are things you probably already knew. So once you start working yourself through the course, and when you're doing that, make sure you try everything you learn. Now, I love reading books, but most studies suggest that we learn the best when we actually do things, when you use more of your senses. So make sure that you watch something, you read something, and you do something, and you write something, and you make notes, and so on. Now, you make notes to have something to kind of trigger your memory later on when you start forgetting things. You can either write notes by hand, make sure then that you scan them using a scanning application for your smartphone, or that you take pictures and you upload them to a drive. So you kind of have a gallery, either a combination of PDF files or a gallery with pictures that you can flip through once now and then, just to, you know, trigger your memory. If you watch something such as an online course, you can take screenshots and upload those to a folder and use those kind of as flashcards. And flashcards is a very good way, a very good learning technique I would highly recommend. But just make sure you have some sort of notes. And then do the things that you learn, because then you will have that application, you can take a look at it. But I think it works the best if you have it in combination with notes, because sometimes you'll do an application, you can't remember what you did. And I am not a big fan of having comments in code, because it clutters up the code, and it makes it a little bit harder to read, and it's not a good way to write things down. So have your notes next to the application. And you just work your way through the course and add a little bit more in then. Now, I said there were several technologies that you need to learn, so I would do a course on the main technology that you want to learn, be that HTML5, and then I will make sure that I have books, some books, not too many. For example, for JavaScript, I will have JavaScript, the good parts, and for CSS, I would find some nice online website that goes through most of the CSS attributes and so on. And you use those to complementary to the HTML5 course, because it's very rarely you can get by just learning this one technology. But you want to have a focus regardless. So you want to have a focus. So that is how I would go about it. I hope I explained it well. It's kind of hard explaining things in a short video like this. But I spent a lot of time thinking about that question, because that was a really good question. I think a lot of people feel the same way, and particularly students. There is so much information. And that's why it's kind of like you're planning your own education, so you have to treat it that way as well. That also means you need to evaluate it and find out what works for you. But the only way you're going to know what works for you if you set aside time to evaluate and really think about it. So make sure, find out, I like these courses better than these courses, I thought this one I didn't like, and so on, and spend some time evaluating. And one last thing I would also say is that remember that sometimes free resources aren't the best ones, and sometimes paid resources aren't going to be the best ones either. But don't be scared to invest a little bit of money on some, for example, some videos or some books if you really want them. Because there are sometimes reasons why things cost, and to be honest, it's not that expensive anymore to purchase a book online. So don't let the price necessarily guide you unless it's a very, very high price. If you're working somewhere, let your boss pay for it because you're adding value to the company. And that is the best advice I can give. And it's still just my advice. I am not an expert. I am definitely not a career coach. Thank you for that email, but I am not a career coach. And I'm a programmer. That's what I do. I'm a developer. I like to code. And I like to share with people the way I've learned things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right way for you. But if you really don't know where to start and you just feel super overwhelmed and you just needed somebody to give you an idea of how they're doing it, well, that's how I'm doing it. Might work for you, or it might not work for you. Now, I'm going to make sure that I record this type of videos a little bit more often. I'm going to be careful by promising them once a week, because I tried that before, but I have so many things happening. I'm going to be away 3 weeks in November, just at different conferences. So I'll try to record the videos a little bit more often. I hope you appreciate the sound quality. Should be better now. I'm being a little bit more creative. Hopefully that helps and makes it more interesting. And thank you for listening. Stay in touch. Make sure you send me an email or a comment or wherever I see you. Take care. Bye.